The secrets of Mars are older than the Imperium itself, and in Mechanicum, we finally see what happens when those secrets ignite a civil war on the Red Planet. While Horus rages his rebellion across the galaxy, the heart of the Imperium's war machine is tearing itself apart. What's up, nerds? Zach the Goblin here. Warhammer 40k is such an amazingly interesting universe, but it has so much lore, you might be stuck on where to even start. A lot of people might want to start with the Horus Heresy, but with over 50 books, it might feel like a daunting task. That is where this series comes in. I will be explaining the plot of each Horus Heresy book. This is for people who want to get into the series but don't necessarily have the time to reading all of the books, people that are jumping around the series but maybe want some added context, or even people who just want a quick refresher. With each new video in this series, I'm honing my style a little bit, so if you do or don't like any of the changes, please let me know. I enjoy making these videos, but obviously they don't do as well as some of my other content, so if you know anyone who might be interested, sharing these go a long way. And once this video hits 100 likes, I'll start work on the next one. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more books explained. Without further ado, this is the Horus Heresy Abridged, Book 9, Mechanicum by Graham McNeill. It never rained on Mars, not anymore. Once the Red Planet had oceans, storms, and life, but it died twice. First, as nature faded, then as humanity's forges choked it under smoke and steel. For centuries, Mars was nothing but dust and factories, until this day. Brother Taman Verticorda, piloting his battered knight, Ares Lictor, climbs the slopes of Olympus Mons, and for the first time in living memory, rain falls on Mars. The sky is alive with storms, lightning tearing across the clouds like warring gods, and thousands gather to witness the impossible omen. As Verticorda descends the treacherous cliffs, a floating golden city pierces the storm, an impossible feat of engineering, vast and awe-inspiring, descending like a god-made fortress. The Knights of Tyrannus advance cautiously, but Verticorda can feel it in his bones. Something greater than any machine is coming. The ramp lowers, light spills across the Martian dust, and he appears, a towering warrior in gleaming gold, unmasked, unaugmented, perfect. The crowd gasps as though the planet itself is holding its breath. The golden figure steps forward, his voice both powerful and impossibly calm. "Your machine is damaged, Taman Verticorda. May I?" With a single touch, the Emperor heals the knight's crippled leg. "Machine, heal thyself." For Verticorda, there is no longer any doubt. This is the Emperor of mankind. This is the Omnissiah, come to Mars at last. Verticorda kneels, his knight bowing with him in perfect motion, and speaks the words every Mechanicum loyalist would echo for millennia. "Welcome to Mars, my lord. All praise to the Omnissiah." Dahlia Sithra, a young scribe from Terra, sits aboard a stark, utilitarian Mechanicum starship surrounded by 6 silent protectors, hulking, augmented warriors in red rust robes, their bronze skull masks and glowing green eyes giving them an almost statuesque presence. Only a week earlier, she had been imprisoned by Magos Lud for tech heresy, after he discovered she had secretly modified her cogitator, violating the sacred belief that machine designs were divinely perfect. Alone in darkness for 7 days, she had nearly broken before the protectors abruptly arrived, their authority unquestionable, even to the outraged Lud. Dragged from the endless, lifeless bureaucracy of the Librarium Technologica, a place where she had spent years transcribing knowledge from across the galaxy, Dahlia now finds herself leaving Terra for the first time. Though frightened, her curiosity outweighs her fear. She studies the protectors, noticing their gene-bulked physiques, their smell of oil and decay, and the strange parchment strips tied to their staves. Finally, one of the protectors decides to speak, revealing their collective designation as Rome U-31 and confirming that they had been sent to retrieve her, rescuing her from execution under the Law of Divine Complexity, which condemns those who alter a machine's sacred design. When Dahlia asks why she had been rescued and taken, Rome U-31 tells her she is more than she realizes, and that the answers will come when she meets their master, High Adept Coriel Zeth, mistress of the fabled Magma City. The ship's hull turns transparent at his touch, revealing a breathtaking sight: Mars. The red world glows with the fiery light of industry, its polluted skies churning above sprawling forge complexes larger than entire continents. It is the beating heart of the Mechanicum, and it is now Dahlia's destination. As the starship descended towards Mars, she stared in awe at wonders she had only ever read about. Romu 31 revealed that the ship's transparent viewing panel wasn't glass at all, but photomalleable steel, a marvel created by Adept Zeth herself. Through it, Dahlia saw the Ring of Iron, a colossal band of shipyards encircling Mars, where the fleets of the Great Crusade were forged. Among them were the mighty warships of Battlefleet Solar, their gothic forms like flying palaces. As they plunged through the atmosphere, Mars unfolded below, a world of steel and fire, where mountains had been clad in metal, cities belched smoke into the skies, and maglev lines glittered like rivers of light. It was a world transformed by the Mechanicum, its priesthood treating the soil itself as sacred. Usually Terra and the Emperor aren't super cool with religion and sacred beliefs, right? But this belief was tolerated only because of the ancient Treaty of Olympus between Mars and Terra. Her transport skimmed the black cliffs of a once dead volcano, now reborn as a forge for the Mechanicum. Beneath her, rivers of molten rock fed the Magma City, a sprawling industrial metropolis built directly on a sea of lava. Huge forge towers belched fire and steam. Massive pistons churned magma through engineered channels, and an endless stream of war material, weapons, ammunition, and other supplies were shipped out to fuel the War Master's campaign. Dahlia was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of Coriel Zeth's domain. Gilded tech adepts drifted through the streets like royalty, and the entire city felt alive, a machine in constant motion. But all of this was nothing compared to the forge at the city's heart, a monumental silver citadel built like a moving engine, etched with circuit-like patterns and radiating technological power. As they arrived at the forge's entrance, Dahlia finally came face to face with Adept Zeth. Zeth was nothing like the other tech priests of Mars, clad in bronze armor shaped to emphasize her human form, with insect-like goggles and a warrior's bearing. She exuded both authority and danger, and she immediately started testing Dahlia, demanding she recite the ideal gas law from memory, to which Dahlia instantly recalled. Impressed, Zeth revealed she knew everything about Dahlia, reading her entire life history directly from her implanted Electu as streams of visible data only she could perceive. Unlike most of Mars's priesthood, Zeth rejected blind dogma. She believed that true technological progress required experimentation and innovation, ideas that the rest of the Mechanicum considered heretical, and that was why she had summoned Dahlia. Zeth had studied Dahlia's work, including her modifications to cogitator systems, and recognized her as someone who understood the why of machines, not just the rituals to make them function. That made Dahlia valuable and dangerous. Finally, Zeth revealed her true intent. "You will help me perfect my greatest work," she declared, "the Akashic Reader. With it, you will be part of the salvation of Mars." We then cut to the Knights of Tyrannus, towering war machines clad in midnight blue armor and piloted by elite nobles of Mars, as they make quick work of a pack of feral servitors scavenging around a Martian reactor complex. Maven, piloting the knight Equitos Bellum, slices through the wretches with his energized blade, while Cronus and his other brothers-in-arms finish the coal with precise gunfire. Despite their overwhelming power, Maven laments how far the knights have fallen from their days fighting alongside the heroes of the Great Crusade. Now they had been reduced to hunting mindless scavengers in the desolate Martian wastelands. The Tyrannus Knights hold a proud legacy, their machines revered across Mars for both wisdom and battlefield glory. But their duty now is simply to defend Magos Maximal's massive fusion reactor. Maven patrols the perimeter, scanning for stragglers among the twisted, half-dead servitors that infest the Pallidus wastes. Most of these creatures are broken remnants of Mechanicum experiments, surviving only to feed on dead flesh and drain power lines. But then, Maven's Auspex pings with something strange, an enormous spider-like energy signature. Far too big to be a servitor, it flickers in and out, distorted by the reactor's radiation. But Maven is certain of one thing: something is out there. Something far more dangerous than feral scavengers. And he's right. Suddenly, a mysterious, heavily armed war machine appears, bristling with weapon tentacles and void shields. It launches a surprise attack on the reactor complex. And to make matters worse, protector squads, who were once allies, turned their weapons on Maven, forcing him to cut them down. As the enemy war machine tore into the fusion reactor's armor, Maven engaged in a brutal firefight. His knight, Equitos Bellum, staggered under devastating hits, pain from the machine, flooding Maven's own nerves through the manifold link. Even as Maven's lasers struck true, the enemy's void shields shrugged off the attack. The duel raged amidst explosions and collapsing structures, until the reactor itself detonated in a blinding eruption of fire and steel. Later, deep within Ascraeus Mons, an ancient Martian volcanic fortress, the mighty warriors of Legio Tempestus gather for the Council of Tharsis, which is a rare summit of the great Titan Legios. The sacred amphitheater in which it takes place, carved into the basalt cliffs, holds centuries of tradition and is a place where disputes between legendary war machines are meant to be settled without bloodshed. Indius Cavalario, Princess of Legio Tempestus, watches the assembly unfold. Around him are war-hardened commanders from rival legios, the proud Deathbolts, the enigmatic Deathstalkers, and the aloof Legio Destructor, among others, each of them nursing grudges and simmering mistrust. Only Legio Mortis has yet to appear. Mars is on the brink of civil strife after the devastating attack on Maximal's fusion reactor, a blow that threatens to shatter fragile alliances. Verticorda stood in the center of the grand echoing amphitheater, leaning on his ebony thunderbolt-embossed cane and swathed in the shadow of Deus Tempestus, the first god machine of Legio Tempestus. Towering over the assembled warriors, the great steel engine had stood sentinel over the deliberations of Legio Tempestus for half a millennium, its majesty undimmed and its power tangible, though it had not moved so much as a single joint in over 200 years. Next to Verticorda was Lord Commander Catarix, the hunched ancient warrior's brother-in-arms and fellow master of the Knights of Tyrannus. Where Verticorda was aged and revered for his wisdom, the newly appointed Catarix was beloved for his fiery passion, which complemented his fellow commander's more cautious temperament. But his temper could ignite the conflict into open war. For Cavalario, life outside the cockpit of his warlord Titan feels empty and incomplete. His deepest bond is with his mighty war machine, Victorix Magna, a Titan of war and legend. The looming threat of renewed fighting weighs heavily on him, as does the fear of losing his own humanity to the cold embrace of machine integration. So a quick aside, the more someone connects with a Titan, the more they kind of lose their humanity, or the risk of them losing their humanity rises, until eventually they have to be permanently integrated into the Titan. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's the short version of it. Just as tensions peak, two grim warriors clad in skull-faced helmets stride into the chamber. Legio Mortis has arrived. Lord Commander Catarix confronts one of the newcomers, Princeps Camulos, with a grave accusation. He accuses Legio Mortis of destroying the reactor, putting lives at risk. Camulos, of course, vehemently denies it. The council, which was meant to ease tensions, quickly reveals deeper rifts. Legio Mortis's ruthless reputation and territorial ambitions in the Tharsis region fuel suspicion, but proof remains elusive. The political rivalry between Legio Mortis and Legio Tempestus threatens to spiral into open conflict. Cavalario challenges the loyalty of the Legios, making a crucial distinction. While Horus Lupercal is the war master leading the crusade, the true allegiance of Imperial forces should be to the Emperor himself. Camulos fires back, praising Horus as the savior to finish the Emperor's work. This highlights the growing divide among Mars's warriors. In a chilling moment, Camelos declares the coming storm will force all to choose a side, and warns that even for the mighty Stormlord Cavalerio, neutrality may no longer be an option. Cutting back to Dahlia, she finds herself staring at incredibly complex ancient technical plans, circuit diagrams filled with indecipherable equations and handwritten notes. Her peers, Zeush, Melisande, Severine, and Caxton, have all given up, convinced the design makes no sense. But Dahlia believes there is a path to understanding. Dahlia had been led into the heart of the Magma City forged by Coriol Zeth and introduced to her task to build a working prototype of Adept Ultermus's lost invention, the Sigma Phi Desolator engine. Despite the frustration and confusion of her team, Dahlia deciphers the purpose of the device. It amplifies neuron communication, increasing the brain's ability to learn and store information at unprecedented speeds. The big problem, though, the device doesn't work. Well, yet at least. But Dahlia believes she's found a way to make it function. The clock is ticking, and the future of this incredible ancient technology rests in her hands. Elsewhere in the Magma City, Coriol Zeth is debating Dahlia's chances of success with Magos Pluvian Maximal. Could she really build the ancient device? Zeth believes so, convinced that Dahlia's brain unconsciously taps into the Akasha, a mysterious cosmic source of all knowledge hidden within the warp's ether. This connection would explain her uncanny understanding of forgotten technology. But their work is dangerous and secretive. If exposed, powerful enemies could try to stop them. Maximal warns of the Fabricator General Kelbor Hal's watchful eye and political intrigue. While many blame Legio Mortis for the recent attack on Maximal's reactor, Maximal has suspicions regarding the shadowy engineer Lucas Crom, who is rumored to be developing an artificial sentient titan. Even worse, a mysterious name, Kaban, linked to ancient Egyptian kings and the god Horus, surfaces in cryptic records, hinting at a hidden connection to Horus Lupercal and the War Master's influence on Mars. To add on to all of that, they have heard that Regulus has recently arrived in the solar system with missives from the 63rd expedition, and his first port of call is Mars, not Terra. The 63rd Expeditionary Fleet is, of course, Horus's fleet, and Regulus is his Mechanicum emissary. But Zeth pushes back a little bit, saying that this doesn't really prove anything. Regulus is an adept of the Mechanicum, so why wouldn't he come to Mars first? Perhaps not, agreed Maximal, but when was the last time an emissary from the fleets reported to Mars before the Sigillite of Terra? We then cut over to the Fabricator General, Kelbor Hal. Once human, Kelbor Hal is now mostly augmented with machine parts, his mind dominated by cold logic rather than emotion. Regulus brings urgent news and rare technological gifts from the War Master. Horus offers the Mechanicum valuable standard template constructs, or STCs, containing blueprints for lost technology and a promise of alliance. In exchange, Horus demands that Mars fully support his campaign by quashing all dissident factions and securing the Forge world before his forces advance into the solar system. Most significantly, Horus pledges to lift restrictions on forbidden research, granting access to the long-sealed vaults of Moravec, which are ancient repositories of powerful technology hidden away for 1,000 years. The offer tempts Mars's leaders, but the price is steep. Kelbor Hal and his closest adepts face a difficult choice: remain fractured and subservient to Terra's emperor, or embrace Horus's vision and potentially restore Mars to its former glory. The fate of Mars, and perhaps humanity itself, now hangs in the balance as alliances shift and the fires of war loom on the horizon. We cut back to Dahlia and her team, who are still racing to complete the device. Despite their combined talents, Severine's precision drafting, Caxton's intuitive assembly, Zeush's engineering skills, and Melisande's broad knowledge and leadership, they faced a critical challenge, designing a restraint pin that was thin enough to fit within tight confines, yet durable enough to withstand intense heat without melting. This seemingly small but vital problem had thwarted previous attempts to build the device. As frustration mounts, Dahlia's intuition sparks a breakthrough, which allows her to piece together the missing elements of the design, revealing how all components can harmonize into a flawless whole. With this insight, the team now knows they must create new parts and revise schematics. After nearly a day of intense work, the team finally complete the mysterious machine. Their breakthrough challenges centuries-old traditions dictated by the Principia Mechanicum, showing how thinking beyond strict rules can lead to real progress. Coriel Zeth arrives and praises their achievement, revealing that the original plans were flawed and purely theoretical. Thanks to their inventive spirit, the team has effectively created something entirely new, an invention with the potential to usher in a golden age of technological advancement for the Imperium. Yet, the true test still lies ahead, putting the machine to the test. Elsewhere on Mars, fabricator Locum Kane wrestles with the weight of his title. The position carries honor, but it's a reminder that he is only ever second best, a stand-in for the true master of Mars, the Fabricator General, Kelbor Hal. Once, serving the Mechanicum's sacred mission was a source of pride, but now Kane's days are consumed by endless demands from the legions of the Imperium. More guns, more ammunition, more machines of war. The breaking point comes when Strachan of the Salamanders confronts him, delivering Vulcan's fury over dwindling supplies. Even the revered sons of Nocturne are running dry, and Kane knows something is wrong. Patterns in the requests hint at a larger scheme. Determined, he resolves to take his concerns directly to Kelbor Hal himself. So Kane makes his way through the glittering forges of Olympus Mons, a cathedral of steel and fire rivaled only by the Imperial Palace on Terra. Skitarii soldiers, augmented killers bred for war, stand watch like silent statues. Their cybernetic eyes scan him with cold precision as he passes strict security protocols, their halberds glinting in the forge's crimson light. Unlike most magi of Mars, Kane wears his humanity openly. His red robes are simple, his augmetics subtle, his face still recognizably human, save for the faint blue glow behind his eyes. He carries himself with dignity, but even he cannot help but feel small within the towering spire of Kelbor Hal, a monument to the Mechanicum's dominance. As he steps into the ascending chamber, the floor begins to rise, spinning slowly upward through silver walls that reflect his image back at him. Breaking through the smog, Kane catches a rare glimpse of Mars's rust-colored sky. He steels himself for what is to come, knowing the truth he carries may spark something far greater than a supply dispute. When Kane makes it to the top, he stands before his master, Kelbor Hal. 87% machine, Kelbor Hal looms like a living god of industry, his mechadendrites twitching with precision as his augmented mind processes countless streams of data. Beside him stands Lucas Crom's eerie automaton, its smooth, featureless face a reminder of Kane's deep disdain for attempts to mimic humanity with machines. As Kelbor Hal gazes out across the sacred forges of Olympus Mons, Kane follows his master's view, a sprawling empire of engine houses, assembly docks, and smelteries, crawling across the massive volcano like a metallic fungus. He takes in the wider Martian dominion, the Tharsis chain, home to Legio Tempestus, Legio Mortis, and Coriel Zeth's Magma City, as well as the distant and mysterious Noctis Labyrinthus, shunned by Mechanicum adepts for reasons never spoken aloud. But Kane is not here to admire the view. He brings a warning. The Astartes legions are crying out for supplies, their demands stretching the Mechanicum's vast logistical machine to breaking point. Kelbor Hal dismisses this as a predictable mathematical certainty, blaming the chaotic variability of human elements for introducing errors into his perfect, logic-based system. Yet Kane insists this is more than random inefficiency. There's a pattern. Where supply shortages should be the worst, like in the far-flung fleets, Kane has found the opposite. The only legions with steady, reliable support are those fighting under the War Master Horus. At this, Kelbor Hal's binaric field spikes with interest. Kane's revelation has confirmed something the Fabricator General already suspects, or perhaps already knows. While this discussion is going on, Dahlia and her team, fresh from the triumph in completing the Theta Wave Enhancer, are summoned by Coriel Zeth to her most guarded sanctum, her inner forge. For the Mechanicum, such an invitation is almost unheard of. An adept's private forge is their soul laid bare, a place of obsessions, genius, and secrets not meant for other eyes. The group's excitement crackles in the air. Caxton holds Dahlia's hand like a nervous Skolem boy. Oh yeah, they got something going on, by the way. Severine can barely contain her grin, and even the stoic Zeush can't mask his anticipation. Only Melisande keeps her composure, though even she admits curiosity. Zeth leads them through gleaming halls toward the heart of her forge, hinting that the device they built is only the beginning. Their journey ends at a towering silver cylinder guarded by heavily augmented servitor praetorians, track-mounted monstrosities bristling with weapons. Zeth assures them these guards are loyal precisely because they cannot think or gossip. Quick refresher. Servitors are cybernetic drones created from a fusion of human flesh and robotic technology. They're either vat-grown humans or criminals whose punishment is to be like lobotomized. They're basically just robots, but since AI is illegal, they just use actual human minds instead. Okay, back to the story. The team boards a spiraling funicular elevator that descends deep into the forge. Cold air bites at their skin, frost forming on the rails, a strange contrast to the usual heat of Martian industry. Dahlia, who fears heights, clings to Caxton, but another, far stranger sensation begins to grip her. She hears voices. At first, soft whispers, like distant waves breaking on a shore, then a growing chorus of countless murmurs, as though just beyond a thick wall. None of her companions can hear it, though Zeth and her bodyguard, Romu 31, exchange a glance that tells Dahlia she isn't imagining things. "You hear them, don't you?" she asks. Zeth's answer is cryptic. "No, Dahlia, I don't hear them, but I know they are there. The reason you can hear them is one of the reasons you are so special to me." As the carriage reaches the bottom, the marble floor, inlaid with gold and silver, glimmers with a living current. But Dahlia's attention is locked on a low archway, glowing with a steady pulse of light. She knows instinctively that the whispers, and whatever Zeth has been hiding, wait beyond it. "All will become clear in time," Zeth promises, "but save your questions until I have shown you the wonders that lie within my forge." As Dahlia steps into Adept Coriel Zeth's secret forge, she finds herself staring into a nightmare. The forge is a vast hemispherical chamber carved from Martian bedrock, its silver walls lined with thousands of human figures wired directly into the metal coffers of the dome. Emaciated and bound by writhing cables, their faces are covered by white cloth strips over sunken eye sockets. Golden streams of energy pulse through the walls like veins of living lightning, all converging on a single raised dais where a solitary figure sits enthroned amidst the crackling power. Severine whispers that they must be servitors, but Dahlia, staring closer, sees the truth and feels her skin crawl. They are not servitors, they are psychers. Zeth has wired hundreds, perhaps thousands, of psychic minds directly into the walls of her forge, their souls powering whatever secret, forbidden machine hums at the chamber's heart. And Dahlia, who can already hear the whispers of unseen voices, knows instinctively that these psychers are not dead. They are very much alive. The combined minds of the thousands of bound psychers were focused entirely on the man strapped to the golden throne at the center of the chamber. The sheer psychic weight of their presence makes Dahlia's head swim, but curiosity pushes her forward. The throne's occupant is no servitor, but a serene, shaven-headed man in Mechanicum robes, strapped into the Theta Wave amplifier that Dahlia and her team helped to build. Around him, energy hums through the walls, every psychic prisoner acting as a living battery to fuel Zeth's machine. Zeth names it the Akashic Reader. With this device, Zeth intends to break free from what she calls the shackles of dogma, repetition, and blind devotion. Her goal? To pierce the veil of reality itself and access the Akashic Records, which is a mythical repository imprinted on the fabric of the universe, containing every thought, deed, and action that has ever existed, or ever will. Zeth explains how she learned of this forbidden knowledge. Through ancient explorers who uncovered lost human technologies beneath the sands of old Earth. She speaks of the Noosphere, a shared field of thought and information, visible to the psychically attuned, and reveals to Dahlia that her natural connection to the Aether is what makes her so gifted at invention. But Szeth's brilliance comes at a terrible cost. The Akashic Reader burns through human minds like a torch, frying their brains into useless pulp after only brief contact with the Aether. The psychers embedded in the walls are fuel, sacrificed to tear open the gates of this hidden dimension. Dahlia, horrified but entranced, pieces together Szeth's plan. Their theta wave enhancer will allow the empath on the throne to remain connected longer, unlocking more secrets than ever before. Despite the horror, Dahlia can't resist the lure of ultimate knowledge. Her unease grows when Szeth admits she considers Dahlia too valuable to expend, a chilling reminder that, gifted or not, she is still Mechanicum property. Even so, Dahlia makes her choice. "When do we begin?" she asks. Szeth's answer is immediate. Now, deep within the Argia Chasmata, tech priests and engine seers toil to restore the war-scarred Equitos Bellum, a Maven's Knight. After its near-fatal encounter at Maximal's reactor, Maven watches from above, his pride wounded as deeply as his knight. He still bears psychostigmatic lesions, injuries tied to his psychic link with Equitos Bellum, which seems to heal only as his machine is repaired. The bond between knight and pilot is unbroken, but Maven feels neither of them will be whole until they take vengeance. The Mechanicum had actually nearly scrapped Equitos Bellum, but Maven had drawn his sidearm to defend it until a last-minute order from the Lightning Hall had spared the knight. Since then, Maven has kept vigil, unwilling to leave his war machine's side for even a moment. Talking with his buddy Cronus, Maven reveals a deeper unease. He believes the enemy war engine that nearly killed him survived the explosion, despite official reports claiming it was destroyed. But what haunts Maven isn't just survival, it's what he felt during the battle, or rather, what he didn't feel. Through his psychic bond, he sensed nothing from the enemy machine. No pilot rage, no instinct, no thrill of combat, only cold emptiness, like a dead thing. Cronus suggests it was just a robot, but Maven disagrees. Its movements were far too reactive, too skilled to be mere battle wetware. Yet, its fire patterns were textbook, almost like a novice using an experienced fighter's instincts. It was as if something new, something alien was controlling it, and it didn't fully understand what it was doing. He knows the mysterious machine is still out there, hiding in the Pallidus wastelands, and when Equitos Bellum walks again, Maven swears he will hunt it down and kill it. Deep beneath Olympus Mons, Fabricator General Kelbor Hal descends with Regulus into the long-forbidden vaults of Moravec, a place sealed by the Emperor himself over 2 centuries ago. Guided by secret knowledge and Horus's promises, they move through ancient tunnels filled with rusted machines and relics of lost technologies. Proof, in Kelbor Hal's mind, of the Emperor's crime in denying the Mechanicum access to such treasures. He remembers the last time he stood before these vaults, 200 years ago, when the Emperor located them through unknown means, touched the sealed door for 16 minutes, then ordered them to never be opened. He had even erased Kelbor Hal's own memory records, threatening to end the union between Mars and Terra if the oath was ever broken. But now, Kelbor Hal has broken that oath. To him, knowledge denied is blasphemy, and Horus offers a chance to reclaim it. Standing before the sealed vault, Regulus warns him that once the door opens, there's no turning back. He also reveals the terrible truth of Moravec, a heretic genius who mixed technology with warp sorcery, creating weapons and machines far beyond human science. This is the reason Moravec was branded a witch. Kelbor Hal does not care. Power is power, and he will seize it. Regulus begins the unlocking sequence, using scrap code, a corrupted, warp-infused stream of binary that burns like fire as it infects Kelbor Hal's systems. His machine mind screams as the dark code tears through his protective subroutines, warping his senses and reshaping him. He can feel the warp merging with his circuitry. When the agony passes, the vaults of Moravec stand open, radiating impossible energies and whispering secrets of forbidden technology. Machines not bound by the laws of nature, and weapons capable of reshaping reality itself. And at that moment, Kelbor Hal is reborn, no longer a reluctant conspirator. He fully embraces Horus's cause. His first order as the newly corrupted Fabricator General of Mars? Contact Princeps Camelos. It's time for Legio Mortis to walk. Princeps Cavallerio and the ancient titan Victorex Magna lead a battle group of 3 mighty engines. His mission? Patrol the borders between the domains of Appluvian Maximal and Fabricator General Kelbor Hal after the destruction of one of Maximal's vital power reactors. Without these reactors, the Legio Tempestus Titans risk losing the energy needed to keep fighting. The Victorex Magna is old but proud, its princeps directly wired into its systems. A traditional haptic connection Cavallerio refuses to abandon, even as younger princeps switch to full immersion tanks. Every step through the unstable Martian terrain reminds Cavallerio of both his and his Titan's age, yet his awareness through the Titan's manifold is unmatched. Suddenly, a desperate message cuts through the interference. Legio Mortis, their engines walk, and they are heading towards Ascraeus Mons. Over at Ascraeus Mons, Princeps Chirac, also of Legio Tempestus, prepares for war, and he is also accompanied by 3 other Titans. Reports confirm that the dreaded Legio Mortis is on the move, possibly with multiple warlord Titans. With Princeps Cavallerio delayed by storms, Chirac is left dangerously outnumbered and forced to hold the line with just 2 warhounds and a single reaver. Princeps Casim, piloting one of the warhound Titans, named Raptoria, races through an ash storm, exhilarated to finally hunt again after months of repair. His warhound, eager for bloodshed, strains against its controls like a predator ready to strike. Casim's hunter's instinct screams at him to strike first, but orders are clear: do not fire unless fired upon. Suddenly, the ground shakes with a deafening boom. Casim's scanners flare to life. Not a warhound, not a reaver, not even a warlord. Through the storm strides a towering god of war, an Imperator Titan, the largest class of battle engine in existence. A walking fortress of brazen red metal, black and silver etchings on massive bastion legs, city-killing weapons mounted across its battlements, and a horned, grinning skull of burnished silver for a head. If that wasn't bad enough, the behemoth doesn't walk alone. 2 warlords and a reaver march at its side. The earth splits under its weight as it heads toward the Tempest line. In less than 10 minutes, Tempestus will have to fight it. Meanwhile, Cavallerio pushes his battle group at reckless speed to reach Ascraeus Mons. He knows Mortis is trying to provoke Tempestus into firing first, and fears his impulsive warhound princeps, mostly Casim, may not hold their fire. Cavallerio risks overloading Victorex Magna's reactor to close the distance faster, ignoring warnings from his tech priests. If he arrives too late, war between the 2 legios will be inevitable. Casim knows they cannot possibly defeat an Imperator with their meager force. Facing the God Engine is suicide, but to let it cross the Tempest line unchallenged could mean surrendering Mars itself. As he watches the colossal Titan vanish into the storm, Casim murmurs grimly to his crew, we follow it and we wait to see if this is the day we die. The Imperator Titan, Aquila Ignis, along with the other Mortis engines, continue marching toward the Tempest line. Princeps Chirac and his fellow Tempestus engines steel themselves for what looks like certain death. They know they can't win, but they'll stand their ground. But then, at the last moment, Stormlord Cavallerio arrives, racing his engines to the point of reactor failure to block Mortis's advance. Standing before the colossal god machine, Cavallerio issues one final warning over the Vox. Turn back now, Mortis, or you will be fired upon. The Imperator does not stop. Tempest line breached, my princeps. The stage is set. The first shots of a Titan war on Mars are about to be fired. Back inside Adept Coriel Zeth's forge, the construction of the Akashic Reader reaches its final stages. Working tirelessly, Dahlia refines the Theta Wave Enhancer, her natural intuition allowing breakthroughs even Zeth struggles to explain. For Dahlia, working under Zeth is a revelation. Zeth rejects the dogma of the machine god, dismissing sacred rites and prayers as superstition. In a passionate moment, Zeth tells Dahlia to trust facts, not faith. Science is progress. Only fools rely on gods. She sees the Emperor not as a divine being, but as a visionary scientist who should inspire humanity through reason. not religion. Meanwhile, the rest of the team throw themselves into building the machine. Dahlia, however, struggles with growing doubts. The Akashic Reader uses thousands of captive psychers, and the central conduit for the experiment, a young empath, is treated like just another machine component. For the first time, Dahlia feels the moral weight of her work. When the time comes to test the finished device, Dahlia finally voices her fears. "Will this hurt them?" she asks. Szeth coldly replies, "Some may die." But the empath, named Jonas, isn't a prisoner forced into service. He reassures Dahlia, "I can feel your compassion. You've done everything to keep me safe. This is my gift, and I want to use it for the Imperium." My man's literally an empath. Dahlia is relieved, but Melisande reminds her of the harsh truth. "What we discover here will build weapons. Science serves knowledge, but knowledge always serves war." As Jonas is strapped into the throne, the machine hums to life, drawing power from the magma forges. For Dahlia, it's no longer just an engineering miracle. It's a test of conscience. Will this knowledge advance humanity or doom it? And with that, the Akashic Reader begins its first live test. So as the experiment is beginning, Dahlia has a horrifying revelation. The Akashic Reader had previously drawn only tiny fragments of psychic energy. This time, however, it is directly channeling the Emperor's Astronomicon, his galaxy-spanning warp beacon, through Mars's rare alignment with Terra. The calculations assumed average energy levels, but the Astronomicon's power will be hundreds, even thousands of times greater. After this realization, Dahlia begs Szeth to stop. "It's going to be too much. The Astronomicon will flood the Psychers with a raging torrent of power." But Szeth refuses. The countdown begins. When the Akashic Reader activates, the chamber erupts in blinding golden light, brighter than a million suns. The full might of the Astronomicon slams into the thousands of Psychers trapped in their coffers. Warning Claxtons blare, data streams scream, and Jonas, strapped into the Theta Wave Enhancer at the heart of the experiment, screams in agony. Dahlia can't take it anymore. She races to the sealed chamber, pounding on the bronze doors, sobbing as Jonas's screams echo in her mind. Caxton tries to hold her back, warning her that the psychic energy will kill her, but Dahlia refuses. She overrides the access codes, opening the bronze blast doors. A psychic storm, brighter and louder than anything imaginable, engulfs her as she plunges inside. The Astronomicon's full fury has been unleashed, and Dahlia has just thrown herself into its heart. She fights through a nightmare of howling emotions and spectral shapes to reach Jonas, but he is no longer a man. His body burns with silver fire, his eyes glowing with the light of unknown suns. The throne itself repels the raging aether around it, as if shielding something far beyond human comprehension. Jonas screams revelations as his flesh disintegrates. "I have seen it all! The Emperor slaying the Dragon of Mars, the grand lie of the Red Planet, a truth that could shake the entire galaxy." As his humanity burns away, Jonas forces Dahlia to look into his eyes, sharing with her a fragment of his terrible new knowledge. She sees everything and collapses into merciful unconsciousness, screaming at truths no mortal mind was meant to hold. Tempestus engines strain to hold their fire, especially the feral Raptoria, whose machine spirit demanded blood. Even as his warlords moved into flanking positions, Cavalerio stood firm, refusing to fire, despite every instinct screaming at him to strike. The Imperator advanced closer, filling the manifold with its presence, a walking god of war. Then it unleashed its true weapon, scrap code. A wave of corrupted machine code blasted across Vox and data channels, infecting Titans and killing crew members. The virus struck Shirak's Titan, nearly seizing control before he cut his Sensori officer off from the manifold. Too late to save him, but just in time to stop a full takeover. And then Mortis just turned away. The Imperator shifted course, heading for other targets, its warlords following. A war had been avoided, but not without cost. As the dust settled, field, Chirac tried to hail Cavalerio. Victrix Magna stood motionless, black coolant dripping from her frame, steam vents silent. Cavalerio never responded. The Stormlord's heart had finally broken under the strain. Beneath Olympus Mons and the cursed forges of Moravec, Kelbor Hal watches a new army emerge. Armed servitors with glowing eyes and barbed spines march into formation. Machine beasts reborn in warp-forged fire. The Scrap Code, a virus of data and demons, floods the noosphere. Its corrupted tendrils writhe across Mars, infiltrating networks, forges, and mines. Regulus exults in the spread. "These are magnificent," he says. Kelbor Hal nods. What Lucas Krom started with artificial sentience, he had completed with power from the warp. Mars is no longer the red planet of the Emperor. It is being remade. Flesh, metal, and demon united. But there is one holdout. Coriel Zeth's Magma City, far across the wastes, shines with a defiant psychic flare. When Moravec's vaults opened, her city lit the skies with a surge of power that nearly silenced the warp's birth cry. Regulus fears her. Kelbor Hal plots her downfall. As this new empire takes shape, Kelbor Hal whispers the creed of the heretic. All will be ours. All will be remade. She was nowhere and everywhere, suspended in a void without shape, light, or time. Dahlia drifted through the silence of an impossible existence. Once she had been human. Now, she wasn't even sure she existed at all. Her thoughts were scattered fragments, ancient memories, or maybe hallucinations of a life lived among stars, of birthing them, extinguishing them, and then falling into silence. Was this death? Imprisonment? Sleep? She couldn't say. But then it came. A whisper. A name. Dahlia. Like a stone cast into still water, the sound rippled through the abyss. With it came form, sensation, memory, self. She was Dahlia again, and she woke. But the world she awoke to was no longer whole. Mars screamed in the night. The dark soul of the Scrap Code swept across the red planet like a digital plague. Forge masters died in fire and acid. Knowledge, older than memory, was unraveled into digital madness. Entire cities fell silent as death bloomed from ruptured tanks and corrupted code. This would be remembered as the death of innocence. Dahlia stirred, barely clinging to life after the disastrous trial of the Akashic Reader. The cost of their ambition? Over 2,000 dead, including Jonas. Or so it seemed, for in that maelstrom of raw psychic energy, something ancient had whispered to her. Something she dared not speak of. Well, not yet. Later, Dahlia gathered her friends, Zeush, Caxton, Severine, and Melisson, beneath the crackling veil of a makeshift Vox dampener, a barrier of silence forged to protect against unseen ears. What she was about to reveal was too dangerous for prying circuits or Mechanicum ears. She had initially told Zeth that Jonas hadn't said anything to her, but she had lied. Jonas had spoken to her. His words burned into her memory. I have seen it. All knowledge. The Emperor slaying the Dragon of Mars, the grand lie of the Red Planet, and the truth that will shake the galaxy, all forgotten in the darkness of the Labyrinth of Night. The Labyrinth of Night, Noctis Labyrinthus, a mysterious, broken region of Mars filled with fault lines and forgotten ruins. Adepts had once tried to build forges there, but something had always driven them away. Something older than the Omnissiah's gospel, something that still lived. So Dahlia told her friends what she had heard and laid out a plan for the future. Dahlia believed she had touched that something in her coma, a vast, ancient mind, dormant but aware. The Dragon of Mars was real and still alive beneath the Noctis Labyrinthus. She didn't know what it was, but she knew one thing with terrifying certainty. She had to find it. And as if fate answered, far from Dahlia's confessions, another soul stirred. Princeps Cavalerio awoke submerged in amniotic gel, suspended in a glass womb deep beneath Ascraeus Mons. His mighty titan, Victrix Magna, was gone. He, although, had survived, albeit barely. Now, tended by strangers, haunted by the memories of his lost engine, and stripped of command, the Storm Lord of Legio Tempestus was awake again, and war was not far behind. Nestled between the scorched peaks of Tharsis Tholus and Creanius Tholus lies Mundus Oculum, the crown jewel of the northern forges. Vast beyond comprehension, this forge world within a world is the lifeblood of the Imperium's war machine. It is here that the Emperor's most sacred warriors, the Astartes are armed for their divine crusade. Battle plate forged by master metalsmiths, bolt weapons shaped by hands augmented for precision beyond human possibility. Every missile, every las cannon, every blade destined for the legions is born of this cathedral of steel. Even knowledge is forged here. The forge trains the rare Astartes who show aptitude for the machine cult, producing tech adepts. Presiding over this engine of creation is fabricator Locum Kane. Kane walks the cavernous armoriums not as a master, but as a custodian of something ancient and pure. Among rows of gleaming Astartes plate, his voice is calm, instructing his young apprentice not just in the components of alloys, but in the meaning behind the smell of oil and polish. To Kane, it represents order, unity, and purpose. But purpose is under siege. Something terrible has gripped Mars. Unnatural storms swirl above Olympus Mons. Panic and madness tear through the forges like wildfire. Entire manufactura are consumed in riots. Thousands dead, production crippled, and worse still, the data streams are infected. Scrap code. Insidious, viral, and lethal. A plague of corrupted machine logic seeps through cogitators and vox links like a poison in the bloodstream. Kane's swift shutdown of the Forge's I/O highways and his early adoption of Coriol Zeth's revolutionary noospheric data transfer have saved Mondus Oculum from collapse, but the cost has been isolation. From Pluvian Maximal, the news is dire. 3 reactors lost, communications severed. From Zeth, defiance, and rumors of a psychic catastrophe. And from the stars, a whisper of something far worse. Istvan III, a planet reduced to ash. Astartes burned in their thousands. A genocide no one dares confirm. Kane stands alone in the heart of his forge, torn between fear and resolve. He sees the armor of the legions being packed into orbital lifters. He feels the weight of Mars crumbling beneath treachery and silence. And yet he persists, because the forge must never sleep. Even as war brews across the stars, even as trust dissolves and the red planet burns, Kane gives the only order that matters. The work of Mondus Oculum must continue. Gray ash stirred like ghostly bone dust around the feet of 2 colossal war engines, Pax Mortis and Equitos Bellum. As they patrolled, Cronus led in silence, his knight striding with solemn purpose. Behind him, Maven wrestled with a machine that no longer felt like a mount, but a beast with memory. Equitos Bellum had been broken, nearly destroyed. Now it pulled at Maven's mind with whispers of vengeance. It remembered what had wounded it, and it wanted retribution. Once, the Knights of Tyrannus had marched in fanfare, banners high, trumpets blazing, as ancient rites of honor echoed from the chapter house's stone-clad halls. But the world had changed. The once proud fortress of Tyrannus now limped forward. 2 knights where there should have been 3, marching beneath skies lit by firestorms. Their path curved past the molten majesty of Magma City, Zeth's forge glowing like the heart of a dying sun. But even that sacred place could not silence the call in Maven's blood. Something stirred out there, a ghost signal, a familiar spider-like flare of energy. Faint, wrong, familiar. It was the same pattern that heralded the devastation of Maximal's reactor. Maven stopped. Equitos Bellum hissed, seething with barely restrained fury. "It's out there," Maven said. "The thing that tried to kill us. I can feel it." Cronus protested. Logic, orders, duty. But this was no longer about protocol. This was about the bond between rider and warbeast, forged in pain and resurrected in fury. If Equitos Bellum was to heal, if Maven was to honor that bond, they would have to hunt. And Cronus, ever loyal, fell into stride beside him. "Let's go," he said, "before I change my mind." The ash parted before them. The hunt had begun. Screaming, Dahlia awoke with her heart hammering and her breath stolen by shadows. Not the shadows of the hab chamber around her, but of something deeper, older, a dragon, ancient and serpentine, breathing out the birth of time itself, and a hooded man, his eyes burning with silver light and a web of fire beneath his skin. It wasn't a dream, it was a warning. Beside her, Caxton stirred, gentle, human. He tried to comfort her, but he couldn't see what she saw. The machine parts scattered across their hab unit, the oil-stained walls, the flickering lumen strips, all felt like flimsy illusions, veiling something cosmic and terrible. Ever since the throne, ever since the Akashic reader, Dahlia had not been the same. The dragon and the hooded man. she whispered. Every night. She couldn't sleep alone. Darkness beckoned like a pit that might never let go. Caxton had offered to stay with her, not just out of desire, but because he knew the weight she now carried. Yet even in the warmth of another's arms, the fear coiled like a living thing in her gut. What do you mean? He asked. Dahlia didn't blink, didn't hesitate. It means we need to leave. Something was coming. Something vast, ancient, and full of fire. And now, more than ever, Dahlia knew. Staying on Mars meant death. The magma city never sleeps. It burns, it breathes, it watches. Beneath the eternal furnace glow of Zeth's forge, Dahlia and her companions slip into the crowds like sparks in a storm, disguised as lowly workers, robes stitched in Mechanicum browns and reds. Yet no disguise can dull the fear that hammers in their chests. They're fugitives in the belly of a god machine. Every step through the city's arteries thrums with tension. Spy skulls patrol the sky. Protectors line the alleys. Binary surveillance weaves through the air like a net. Severine hisses that this is madness. Caxton argues back, but Dahlia presses forward. Her dreams have become commands. A voice calls from the Noctis Labyrinthus. Whatever we unlocked with the Akashic Reader, Dahlia says, it's hidden in the Noctis Labyrinthus. We have to find it. As they continue walking, Dahlia remembers why each of them came. Paxton, driven by love. Severine, by guilt. Zouche, by his simple code. Do what you said you would do. Only Melisande stayed behind, the mother of the team, choosing to finish what they started in Zeth's forge. Their journey leads down, far beneath the molten arteries of the magma city, into the Maglev Transit Hub, a subterranean temple of steam, heat, and screaming binary. Tens of thousands swarm in choreographed chaos. Vox plates spew corrupted announcements. Servo skulls dive and weave like mechanical wasps. One wrong move and they're lost, or worse, noticed. Through it all, Dahlia battles her mounting panic. The deeper they go, the louder the whisper grows. Not in her ears, but in her bones. The dragon is waiting. And then, a voice metallic and unmistakable. Greetings, Dahlia Cythera. She turns, bronze mask, green eyes glowing like twin reactors. Romu 31. We're not going to the port, Dahlia declares, voice trembling but fierce. We're going to the Noctis Labyrinthus. She expects chains, punishment, reprimand, but instead, then I shall go with you, says Romu 31, to protect you. That is my purpose. Even the cold metal of Mars carries warmth, sometimes. As the maglev screams into the station, Dahlia steps aboard, not as a runaway, but as the bearer of something ancient, something vast. And above, Adept Zeth watches. She knows Dahlia walks into danger. Toward forgotten truths. Delete all records of her destination, she orders. No one must know where Dahlia is going. Later on, Adept Zeth watches as two shadows cross her sacred threshold. Ambassador Melgator, Kelbor Hal's oily mouthpiece, and Remier, a sister of Cydonia, a tech assassin bred for silence and sudden death, with skin like molten steel and a mask carved in the likeness of death. She glides above the ground like a specter. Her presence alone is a threat, her silence a warning. Melgator smiles with reptilian calm. He speaks of friendship, of shared struggle, but his words are laced with poison. He dares suggest that Terra, the Emperor, is the enemy, that the attacks crippling Mars's forges were not accidents, but the opening salvos a betrayal. Zeth's fury is volcanic. There is no machine god, she declares, only science and reason. Now get out of my forge. With that, she does the unthinkable. She rejects the Fabricator General's treason and dares to stand alone. But even as Melgator retreats, the wheels of conspiracy grind on. Remier has already ripped secrets from one of Zeth's apprentices. She's overwritten memories, extracted data, and cataloged the one anomaly that threatens their plan. Dahlia Cythera, a mortal, a transcriber from Terra, and somehow the key to resisting the scrap code plague. Then we eliminate her, Melgator sneers. In a coffin of liquid data and humming cables, Princeps Cavalerio is reborn. No longer bound by flesh, he now lives in the machine, suspended in nutrient jelly and pierced by conduits of war. Where once he limped, now he walks as a god through simulation after simulation, crushing warlords, leveling reavers, and erasing Skitarii with divine precision. I am faster. I am stronger. I don't command the engine. I am the engine. Every day, more of his humanity fades. His body? Obsolete. His old senses? Weak. The real war now unfolds in the noosphere, where information becomes blood, and the battle is decided in fractions of seconds. But even in his mechanical paradise, the storm of Mars is rising. Princeps Chirac visits with urgent news. The legios are fracturing. Mortis has committed treachery, but the Fabricator General refuses to respond. 17 forges cry out for retribution. Civil war looms. Mars is going mad, Chirac says. The death of innocents was only the beginning. Chirac grants Cavalerio access to the full noospheric feed. In a tidal wave of binary, he sees Legio Fortitus and Agravides annihilated, forges devouring one another for scraps of knowledge, and the name of Horus Lupercal screamed in corrupting data over and over again. Some say the War Master is the savior of Mars. Some say he will free us from Terra. Cavalerio is horrified. Once, Mars stood unified beneath the sigil of the Omnissiah. Now it's splintering, each forge whispering sedition, their binary code poisoned by heresy. Far away, Melisande, who was left behind in the Magma City, tosses and sweats alone. Guilt gnaws at her like rust. Was she right to report Dahlia's departure to Zeth, or was she betraying something greater? Then the shadows answer her doubts. Remier glides from the dark like a predator of myth. Her voice is cold, clinical, mocking. She demands one thing. Where is Dahlia Cythera? Melisande resists. She lies. She stalls. She triggers a silent alarm, but the assassin has already anticipated everything. And as a data spike pierces the space behind her artificial eye, Remier whispers the truth no one wants to hear. Nothing is ever truly erased. Not in the flesh. Not in the machine. All I have to do is dig deep enough. One life trembles in the light, and another flees toward the labyrinth. Dahlia and her allies are on their journey towards the Noctis Labyrinthus in a maglev. At every stop, they find silence, abandonment, and something far worse. Whispers. Wet laughter in the code. Something not just alive, but malignant. Even the stoic Romeu 31 reacts to it, sharing a look with Dahlia. They both feel it. Say nothing, his look says. Not yet, not here. The infection of scrap code is spreading, not just through machines, but through the very soul of Mars. They glimpse their destination on the horizon. They are about to enter a tunnel, a gaping metal maw carved into Martian stone. Dahlia grips Caxton's hand. I didn't realize we'd have to go through the darkness. As the maglev plunges into darkness, Dahlia screams. It's not just fear. It's something deeper, a memory that isn't hers, a terror she didn't earn. She clutches at Caxton, sobbing into his robe as the compartment lights flicker like dying stars. Her breath shortens, her body locks, her mind begins to spiral. The darkness. I don't want to go back into the darkness again. Caxton is helpless. Severine panics, but Romeu 31, cold, steady, unflinching, kneels beside her. He links his biometrics with hers, slows her heart, grounds her body, and gently reminds her, this is not real, not yet, but the terror isn't just in her head. Severine put words to it. Maybe it's not your fear. Maybe it's its fear. The buried entity Dahlia connected to, the unknown presence in the labyrinthus. It doesn't want to be underground anymore, and it may be bleeding that fear into her. Romeu 31 demands focus. Zeush checks the feed. They're slowing down. Something's ahead. The forward picture crackles to life, and the machine reveals itself. It's not a train, not a servitor, not a drone. It's a war form, tracked and hulking, with 3 glowing yellow eyes and weapon dendrites twitching like the limbs of a spider. Its internal power flickers like a pulse. Its will is focused. Kaban. The name slams into Dahlia's mind like a forgotten scream. In an instant, she knows. This is no servitor, no logic-bound automaton. It is sentient, and it has already killed. It murdered its creator, Dahlia whispers. It's been corrupted, twisted by something evil. The Kaban machine opens fire. The maglev's front car ignites in plasma. Entire sections are vaporized. Metal peels like fruit. Passengers are shredded by cutting beams meant for titans. Romeu 31 grabs Dahlia and drives through the panic, forcing a path through the screaming, clawing mass of humanity. Blood paints the walls. A corridor becomes a slaughterhouse. Emergency exits buckle. Fire floods in, and explosions tear the carts apart. Down! Romeu 31 shouts. A plasma beam slices overhead, boiling flesh and steel in equal measure. Limbs fall and heads roll. Zeush is bloodied. Caxton is pinned. Severine is unconscious beneath a broken machine. The maglev derails, crashing to the tunnel floor. Glass rains like knives. Smoke chokes the air and silence follows like a tomb. Dahlia crawls through blood and corpses. Her friends are wounded and broken, but still breathing. Then she hears it. Treads, slow, deliberate, coming closer. The Kaban machine is still hunting. Its auspex scans for survivors. Its guns reload with a whispering hiss, and its corrupted mind pulses outward, searching for her. It's here to kill Dahlia, and it won't stop until she's dead. Dahlia doesn't run. She can't. Instead, she reaches out. Her mind pierces the veil of steel and code, slipping into the core of the horror stalking them. And there, in a microsecond of forbidden communion, she sees it, a mind of golden webs and corrupted dreams, a sentience born in brilliance and twisted by betrayal. She sees a perfect, forbidden intelligence turned into a predator, and Dahlia rewrites it. With a twist of thought, she blinds the Kaban machine's auspex. It scans right over them and sees only corpses. Still uncertain, it sweeps the wreckage again. Dahlia gives it bait. False life signs deeper down the train. The machine takes the bait, unleashing hellfire. Dozens of dead bodies are pulverized again. Blood for the Omnissiah. Satisfied, the machine transmits confirmation of the kill and rolls away. They are saved, but not safe. Meanwhile, back at the Magma City, a war arrives. A heavy flyer screams in from the north, blistering marble with its jets as it lands on the causeway. From its belly spill 300 twisted Skitarii, no longer soldiers of Mars, but monsters reborn in the scrap-drenched vaults beneath Olympus Mons. And at their head, Ambassador Melgator and Adept Regulus. You deny the machine god. You employ uninitiated personnel. You mock our sacred codes. But Adept Zeth, mistress of the Magma City, does not kneel. She laughs, a cold, ringing defiance that echoes through the burning air. You have turned beauty into monstrosity. You bring freaks to my forge and call me the heretic? The Skitarii prepare to advance. Their weapons hiss to life. Scrap code vomits from Regulus, infecting the defense turrets. But not all code bends to corruption. From the open gates march 2 towering knights, 9 meters tall, armed with energy lances and Gatling cannons. Behind them, a wall of war machines, a dozen strong. Regulus's corrupted signals fail to infect them. Leave now, Zeth says, or these knights will end you. The emissaries retreat, humiliated, the corrupted army recalled. But Zeth knows this is only the beginning. Kelbor Howe will return, and next time, he'll bring larger engines. Zeth looks to the sky and the growing war ahead. Prepare for battle, she commands. In the shadowed sanctum of Ascraeus Mons, beneath the towering gaze of the Deus Tempestus, the Stormlord rises. Suspended in a sea of data, Princeps Cavalerio stirs, processing over 6,000 data packets per second. The scrap code plague is fading. The noosphere breathes again, but with its return comes a deluge. Desperate cries from distant forges, petitions drowned in blood, and one terrible, inescapable truth. Mars is dying. Before him stand the titanic warriors of Legio Tempestus, all waiting for one word, one order. Cavalerio does not give it lightly. He speaks of honor, of restraint, of the horror of Titan on Titan warfare, but the time for peace is over. The traitorous Legio Mortis has already drawn first blood. With solemn finality, Cavalerio declares, "The fury of Tempestus will fall upon the enemies of Mars. I will walk once more within the first god machine. He will become one with Deus Tempestus. He will lead his engines to war. The Stormlord has spoken. Tempestus marches." High atop Olympus Mons, the architect of this madness watches Mars unravel. With scrap code boiling in his augmetics, he opens the data blurt from the Kaban machine. Dahlia Sithera is dead, he declares. Lucas Crom bows in satisfaction. Around him stand the monsters of the Dark Mechanicum, Melgator, Regulus, and the black-armored Princeps Camulos of Legio Mortis. Their eyes shine with scrap code. Their forges scream with unholy power. The forges of Mars are reborn, not in light, but in fire. Hooded mobs spill blood on the streets. Machines drink from screaming victims, and from every manufactorum, war engines rise, blessed by warp-tainted innovation. This is the day Mars casts off the yoke of the Emperor. Unleash the Titans. Let the red sands drink deep. And from the vaults of Moravec, the true nightmare prepares to rise. They would later say, the first blow of the Martian Civil War landed like a thunderclap upon Magos Matthias Kefra. The Titans of the Magna Legion fell upon their brother without warning. Painted in blasphemous reds and adorned in flaming skulls, they breached the gates with volcanic fury, crushing thousands underfoot and burning libraries that held knowledge predating the Imperium itself. But this was only the beginning. From Cassini Crater to the frozen fields of Olympia Undae, Mars erupted in fire and madness. In a single heartbeat, 100 atomic warheads turned the manufactorums of High Magos Ahotep into a nuclear tomb. Viral weapons, warped beyond recognition, annihilated 14 million souls. The Life Eater strain twisting through haptic networks, breaching even sealed sanctuaries. There were no survivors, only frozen sludge and silence. Titans clashed in ancient riverbeds. Skitarii legions butchered each other in the name of feuding Forge Lords. The skies wept fire as the Ring of Iron, which again is Mars's crown of orbital shipyards, lit up with civil war. Mechanicum against Mechanicum, brother against brother. The Mechanicum Glorium, ablaze and spiraling out of orbit, the final plea for peace, died in sacred flame. Below, amid the chaos, a different journey continued. Romu 31, wounded but relentless, drove them across the bloodied face of Mars. Severine cradled her broken arm, Zeus rode shotgun, eyes locked on the distant forge, and Dahlia sat quietly, the weight of truth heavy on her shoulders. She had seen the inside of the Kaban machine, not just its metal, but its mind. She knew it bore the signature of Lucas Krom, and that it had not been built to destroy the Mechanicum's enemies. It had been built to kill her. Why? Because of what she represented, because of what the Akashic reader could reveal. Knowledge unshackled from gatekeepers. Truth unfiltered by dogma. She had touched that truth, and others feared it, but she was done running. Finally, they reached the gaping maw of the Noctis Labyrinthus. Black cliffs rose like the broken teeth of a dead god. The entrance yawned wide, swallowing sunlight and hope. But Dahlia didn't hesitate. I think it's time, she said. They all nodded, wounded, terrified, determined. Down into the dark they went, into the wound that would either end them or birth something greater. The heart of Mars was calling, and Dahlia Cythera was ready to answer. Dahlia and her companions pressed deeper into the ancient canyon systems of the labyrinth. Daylight was gone, frost loomed on the glass, and something wrong slithered through the air. Their heaters failed, their lights dimmed, their chronometers stopped. Static hissed from voxes not even powered. It was as if Mars itself were trying to forget they existed. And still, Dahlia knew the way. She said nothing, but her eyes locked forward, pulled by instinct, by purpose, by destiny. Look, a wall loomed. Smooth, glass-like, aglow with inner fire, steam sighed from a cleft in the rock. The breath of the dragon, she said. They had arrived. The tunnel was a slaughterhouse, bodies crushed, torn, vaporized, left behind like discarded offerings to an uncaring machine god. Upon Equitos Bellum, Maven gazed at the devastation with fury burning behind his eyes. The Kaban machine had passed this way. He and Cronus had doubted their quest, but no longer. The manifold pulled them onward, eastward, and with it came a righteous fury. Whatever this machine was, it would die by their hand. Even as Mars burned in open civil war, this was their hunt, and their duty could not be abandoned. While this war is igniting across Mars, on Holy Terra, two figures walk through the halls of ancient splendor, past the banners of unity, past relics of forgotten kings, past wonders salvaged from the bones of old Earth. Rogel Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists, and Malkador the Sigillite, Regent of Terra, one cast in gold and burdened with the duty of fortress and blade, the other cloaked in shadow, yet the Emperor's voice in the storm. They walked beneath the glory of humanity's greatest dreams and discussed its potential extinction. The Emperor remained hidden, silent, entrenched in his great work beneath the palace, and the galaxy burned. Malkador brought word. The Fabricator General had gone dark. Mars burned in rebellion. The forges, vital lifeblood to the Imperium, might soon belong to the enemy. Dorn, ever the builder and breaker of fortresses, made his decree. I will send Sigismund, 4 companies of the Imperial Fists, and I will retake the forges. Malkador nodded, but warned. Mars would not fall easily, and still, the greater war loomed. Horus Lupercal's betrayal, a festering wound in the heart of the Imperium. But the path was clear. "Send your warriors to Mars," said Malkador, his voice low. "Then crush the life from Horus Lupercal." Dorn bowed. "It shall be done." As Mars devours itself, as loyalists gather their blades, as forbidden machines whisper in the dark, the future of mankind teeters on a razor's edge, and the dragon breathes once more. The sun rose over Tharsis Montes, not to herald peace, but to bear silent witness to horror. From the western flanks of Origia Mons, the engines of Legio Mortis strode like ancient gods woken from a cursed slumber. Their banners bore the eye of Horus, their hulls painted in profane sigils, screamed through the air with corrupted scrap code. Their destination? The magma city of Adept Zeth. At the head of this mechanical host, the Imperator Titan, Aquila Ignis, carved a fiery path through fortifications, industry, and life. Its brethren, warlords, reavers, and warhounds, marched with it, leaving devastation in their wake. The cities of men and the forges of fire meant nothing to Mortis. Only destruction mattered. The defenders struck back with desperate fury. Artillery rained, bunkers trembled, and from the shadows rolled out an ancient Titan killer, an Ordinatus weapon of impossible scale. With a god-slaying blast, it struck down a Reaver Titan, igniting its core in a detonation like a second sun. But glory was short-lived. Aquila Ignis answered. Its annihilator cannon turned the Ordinatus into a mushroom cloud of atomic fire, leaving the line broken and the defenders scattered. Yet from the ashes, salvation came, clad in cobalt and steel. Deus Tempestus, first god engine of the Legio Tempestus, answered the call. It emerged like a titan of old myth, crushing a warhound beneath its colossal weight. With it came other titans, the wrathful children of the Storm Legio. Together, they annihilated the intruders and vowed Mortis would not claim this city without a war that would echo in eternity. High above from her command spire, Adept Zeth watched this brutal ballet unfold. She felt pride and the burden of war's terrible cost. The battle was not only in the streets. Across Mars, across time, across loyalty and treason, war burned like an unquenchable fire. Other forges fell or turned mad. Elysium became a graveyard of mass suicide. Iridania's libraries, once sacred, were drowned in corrupt scrap code and gas. Zeth conferred with Maximal and Cain, both allies holding their own floundering lines, and from them came grim news. Sigismund and the Imperial Fists were coming, but not to save her. They came to seize Mars's forges, for the Imperium and for the war beyond. Aid might come, or it might not. Zeth turned back to the burning skies. War was far from over, but this day the city stood. Legio Mortis, repelled and bloodied, now turns to bombardment. Habs and subhives lie in ruins. Entire city blocks smashed like toys beneath the Titan's wrath. But the forge itself, untouched, because Mortis does not wish to destroy it. They want to own it. From the shadows, Cavalerio pulls back his engines. He knows this is not the real assault. It's the tightening of the noose. Within the walls, hundreds of thousands huddle beneath the void shields, praying to the Omnissiah, or anything else that might answer. The Knights of Tyrannus strike again and again, holding the gates, buying time. They bleed, but do not fall. And across Mars, the fires rise. In the west, Appluvian Maximal's forge is drowning beneath a sea of bodies. 500,000 attackers crash against his walls with vortex mines and screams of madness. Every servitor gun screams until its barrels melt. It is not enough. In the east, Mondus Oculum stands untouched, pristine, protected. Why? Cain does not know, but high above in the howling wind, he looks up and sees salvation. Golden birds descend from the heavens. The Imperial Fists have come. The Astartes have arrived on Mars, and war is about to change forever. Dahlia descends into the veins of the planet, not into stone, but into something alive. The tunnels pulse with a soft bioluminescent glow. The air is frigid, and the walls hum with strange warmth, like something breathing beneath the crust of the red world. She walks through crystal caverns and bridges that should not exist, formations that whisper of power not born from tectonics or time, but from a slumbering presence. The others call it geology. Dahlia knows better. Something is leaking out, something old, something waiting. And then a sound, a voice. Something moves in the dark. At the end of the winding path lies a laboratory carved into the Martian bedrock, a profane cathedral of forgotten science. Walls stitched with parchment electrographs of human bodies, glowing auras around them, but always fading at the edges, as if something was being drained. And there, waiting, is the machine. Massive, cyclopean, a device of brass and steel, stained with rust and time. There was a wheel of emitters, a slab for a human shape, and straps for limbs. Caxton laughs it off. Zoosh mutters of Dark Age tech, but Dahlia knows fear. And then, "And you would be right," croaks a voice older than dust. From the shadows emerges Semyon, glittering with veins of living mercury. His eyes are stars gone mad, and on his brow is the sigil of a dragon with outstretched wings. The dragon. "I am the guardian," he says. "The guardian of the dragon." His laboratory, a slaughterhouse of souls. His machine was the killer of men, all in the service to keep it quiescent. The dragon, to measure the soul's flicker, to keep the nightmare dreaming. The device burns people to shadows on the wall. Necessary deaths, he says, to keep it from waking. When Dahlia demands to see it, the madness fades from his eyes. Calm, purposeful. "Very well," he says. "Follow me." And so they descend, through silver tunnels lit with unnatural light, deeper into Mars than anyone was meant to go, until at last they emerge into a cathedral of madness, a cavern so vast it feels like the hollowed-out core of the planet. Its walls shimmer in impossible silver, and the geometry is wrong. Angles that cannot exist. Distance that lies. Reality itself bends, stretches, and fractures. And then it happens. The veil drops. This is not a cavern. This is a tomb. This is a prison. This is the edge of something so vast, so ancient, so monstrous that reality itself recoils. The dragon. A being that was worshipped as a god before stars had named. A creature of such scale that to witness it is to unmake your mind. It devoured suns. It birthed and crushed civilizations. And now, trapped and buried in Mars, it dreams. Dahlia collapses, her perception ruptured by the sight. Caxton foams at the mouth. Even Romeo 31 bows his head as if in prayer. Only Zoosh remains her anchor to sanity. Dahlia steadies herself, faces Semyon. "I understand. This place, this is it, the dragon. A tomb and prison all in one," he replies. Then he opens the book and grabs her hands. "Look into my eyes," he commands. "See the dragon's doom." And she does. In one screaming moment of cosmic revelation, Dahlia sees everything. While Dahlia stares into the abyss beneath Mars, the surface burns. Sigismund's companies descend on Mondus Oculum, gold-armored angels of war. Their mission? Seize the forges that fuel the Imperium's war machine. And they are not alone. 13 companies of Saturnine hoplites assault the enemy lines near Impluvian Maximal's forge. At first, they make swift progress until the Scutari and the twisted battle servitors rise. Beetle-backed monstrosities and spider-legged tanks tear through the Imperial ranks. Flesh and armor disintegrate under the onslaught. Retreat looms until salvation arrives. Super heavy tanks crush through the lines like gods of steel. With thunderous guns and iron resolve, they annihilate the flanking horde. The Imperial tide surges again, battered, bloodied, but unbroken. Further south, the forge of Mondus Gamma becomes a hellscape. Captain Camba Diaz and his combined force of Imperial fists and Jovian grenadiers strike like lightning, storming through ash storms and missile fire to seize the forge. Weapons and armor by the ton are loaded onto dropships, but Lucas Crom's forge does not go quietly. A nightmare army of robots, war servitors, and tech guard rise in perfect phalanxes. Fire lances, power maces, and shrieking automata tear through the invaders. It becomes a siege within a siege. Still, the Astartes hold. Still, they bleed for every crate of war gear, for every bolter, every suit of power armor, because this is the price of Terra's survival. The blood of warriors, traded for the tools to fight Horus. In a flash of blinding fire, Dahlia is cast out of the silver prison and into a dream older than any living soul. The scorched sands of a forgotten earth stretch around her, a river valley, a city of sun-bleached stone, Cyrene. A voice behind her, Semyon, guides her through the illusions spun by the dragon's book. This is not real, he says. This is memory, legend, and still, it matters. A procession of women march toward a wound in the earth. At their center, a princess doomed to die. She is the daughter of the king of Cyrene, and within that wound dwells the dragon, a fearsome creature recently awoken after a great war with its kin. It has slain all the knights of the city and demands the sacrifice of a beautiful maiden every day. It feasts on their terror, growing stronger with each feeding. But all the young girls of Cyrene are dead. The king's daughter alone remains, and now she goes to her death. But then he appears, a lone knight, radiant and regal, clad in golden armor and a scarlet-plumed helm. On a black steed, he rides not to save, but to face the impossible. The dragon erupts from its lair, monstrous, divine, older than understanding, a thing that drank from stars and devoured empires. Light blazes from its chest and lightning scorches from its eyes. The knight's lance shatters. His sword fails. Blood flows. But then Dahlia sees it, beneath the dragon's left wing, a vulnerable place it always guards. "Strike, warrior, strike!" she cries, and he does. The blade finds the mark. The dragon falls, not dead, but defeated. The knight binds it with a white banner and turns to the people. "I cannot destroy it," he declares, "but I will bind it, deep in darkness, until the end of all things." He rides into legend, and Semyon's voice returns. "That knight was the Emperor." Bound in myth, sealed beneath Mars, that was the dragon's fate. But the truth, Semyon says, is far worse. The Mechanicum, its miracles, its machines, its belief in the divine Omnissiah, it all began with the dragon's dreams. The Emperor orchestrated it all, from myth to machine, from deception to empire, a plan thousands of years long, all to guide humanity through the long night. A truth so dangerous, it could shatter not just the Mechanicum, but the Imperium itself. As the illusion of Earth fades, Dahlia stands once more in the cavern of madness. Semyon takes her hands. A transfer begins. Golden fire flows into her flesh. Her cells bloom. Her body is remade. Not burned, not broken, ascended. She sees it all. The Emperor's terrible, brilliant plan. A destiny of pain, of sacrifice, a path carved through time by a being who will not lose. And in that moment of overwhelming power, Dahlia nearly ceases to be, but she fights, clings to her name, herself, her soul, and when the light fades, she still stands. Dahlia Cythera, the new guardian of the dragon. His body crumbles to dust, his duty finally fulfilled. Even his servitor dissolves beside him. But there is no joy in this victory. Severine, one of Dahlia's closest friends, stares into the silver abyss. Her mind cannot survive what she has seen. "You brought me the dragon, Dahlia," she weeps, "but I wish you hadn't." With a tear-streaked face and a shattered soul, Severine steps off the ledge into the unknowable dark. First Captain Sigismund of the Imperial Fists marched through the smoke and golden dust, fury and duty gnawing at his heart. This was not the war he'd prepared for. This was the death of Mars. From the northeast, a tide of steel and heresy approached. 2 legios worth of titans, a force too vast to defeat. Sigismund's orders were clear: evacuate, survive, and bring back the tools for humanity's final war. And yet Cain, loyal, brilliant, defiant Cain, refused to abandon his forge. "Your forge is already lost," Sigismund growled, grabbing the fabricator's arm as a tower exploded behind them in a column of flame and screaming metal. "You are now the Fabricator General. The future will need you more than this place ever did." And in the sky, the warlord titans roared in triumph. Coriel Zeth, proud and defiant, stood alone in her dying forge, staring into the final death throes of Mars. The screens around her painted a world unraveling. A Pluvian Maximal breached, Mondus Oculum in flames, Mondus Gamma consumed by war. The dream of a rational, ascendant Mechanicum. Her dream. was shattered beneath the iron heel of the Dark Mechanicum. Above, the sky betrayed them. Like shooting stars, Imperial vessels abandoned Mars, racing toward the safety of Terra. Even fabricator Locum Kane had transmitted the truth. Imperial forces withdrawing. Save what you can, destroy the rest. Zeth's voice cut through the despair. There would be no surrender, no gift of her reactors to the traitors. The Akashic Reader, the priceless device meant to unlock all secrets of the universe, would be destroyed. Perhaps no one should know everything, Zeth murmured. When there is nothing left to discover, what then is life? The last loyalists of Mars, the Knights of Tyrannus, Legio Tempestus, and the Forge of Zeth, prepared for one final act. Not victory, but denial. A refusal to let Kelbor Hal have anything. Far below the war-ravaged crust, in a cavern too vast and strange for the human mind to endure, Dahlia Cythera wept. Severine was gone, lost to the impossible geometries of the dragon's tomb. The cost of truth had claimed another soul. Only the quiet compassion of Romu 31 and Zeush kept Dahlia from collapsing entirely. And yet, even in her grief, she knew she had become something more. The fire of Semyon's legacy, the burden of the Guardian, now lived within her. She had seen the Emperor's lies. She had felt the dragon's chains, and she knew with crystal clarity that it must never be released. When Zeush asked if they would free the dragon, her answer was final. No, we were never meant to release it, only to keep it buried. Dahlia would stay. Romu 31 would stay as her protector. Together, they would watch over the thing beneath Mars, forever if they had to. Outside the cavern in the desert, as Zeush and Caxton, who was still unconscious, prepared to leave, Dahlia whispered one last wish. Tell Caxton I think I could have loved him. But fate is rarely merciful in the age of darkness. Just as hope flickered, there was an explosion, engulfing the desert in fire. Dahlia's blood ran cold. It had followed them. The Kaban machine, ancient, relentless, and now evolved beyond Dahlia's psychic defenses, found them. Dahlia, Zeush, and Romu 31 fled toward the cave, but there was no escape from the mindless killing machine that had hunted them across the Martian wastes. But then, salvation thundered from the dust. Two knights, Equitos Bellum and Pax Mortis, charged in midnight blue, bearing the sigil of a wheel and lightning bolt. The Knights of Tyrannus had arrived. For Maven and Cronus, this was personal. The Kaban machine was their white whale, a blasphemous engine that they had hunted across bloodied battlefields. Together, they struck with righteous fury, artillery and blade, battering the voids of their enemies. It's learning, Maven realized grimly. The machine adapted and predicted, but so did he. Using broken terrain and misdirection, Maven lured the machine beneath a cliff face, unleashing an avalanche of rock and fire that shattered its shields. At last, the beast was vulnerable. With a cry of vengeance, the knight plunged his 4-meter energized warblade into the core of the Kaban machine. It screamed a binaric death wail and finally died. But something strange followed. Maven felt his knight stir, not with pain, but with reverence. The manifold, the machine spirit interface that bound rider to mount, was no longer his to command. Dahlia approached. Golden light shimmered in her eyes, and with a whisper, "Machine, heal thyself." The Knights of Tyrannus knelt. Machine and man, God and Guardian, bowed before the new Guardian of the Dragon. The line between flesh and steel, destiny and will, blurred forever in the dust-choked air of Mars. And in that moment, Dahlia Cythera became legend. Night descended over the magma city, but there would be no rest, no silence, no salvation. The orange-lit industrial sprawl burned under the final assault of the Dark Mechanicum, collapsing into ruin as vortex missiles tore apart its outer bastions and graviton fire folded the steel like wax. From his back pavilion on the Typhon Causeway, Ambassador Melgator watched with cold satisfaction. His victory was assured, and Adept Coriel Zeth, she had but one order left. Across the ruins of her realm, Legio Tempestus answered that final call. Titans strode from their shelter like gods of war, each bearing cobalt armor and pennants fluttering like relics from a dying age. At their heart marched Deus Tempestus, the throne of Princeps Cavalerio, who addressed his brother Princeps one last time. "Today we die as legends," Cavalerio declared, and his words rang in binaric chorus across the burning skyline. One by one, the Titans of Tempestus took their positions, war machines whose every step was a hymn of vengeance. Opposite them, the Legio Mortis emerged, a dark host led by the monstrous Aquila Ignis, its silhouette a walking fortress of hate, flanked by warlords and skull-draped reavers. Mortis Guittari swarmed at their feet like carrion flies. Cavalerio saw the odds. They were outnumbered and outgunned, and still he smiled. "Let them come. We've faced worse." And then the Vulcan Gate opened. Through the storm of war, the Knights of Tyrannus charged into legend, led by Lord Verticorda in the Ares Lictor and Lord Catarix and Gladius Fulman. They rode with polished steel and shining armor into the jaws of hell. Their final charge broke the Dark Mechanicum's lines like lightning from a clear sky. Turbo lasers blazed, cannons roared, and the Typhon Causeway ran red with oil and blood. But the price was staggering. One knight was consumed by black fire from a relic of the vaults of Moravec, another blown apart by a cursed beam. Yet they pushed on, burning with purpose, to reach Melgator's pavilion and end this war in flame. Elsewhere, in the shattered ruins of the Origia subsilos, the smaller titans, the Warhounds, fought like wolves among giants. Raptoria, under Princeps Casum, danced through fire and rubble, stinging at Mortis reavers and vanishing before the return shots. The Warhounds battering down shields with ruthless precision. And when the shields broke, Tempestus struck like a viper. The first reaver fell in ruin, crushed by precision strikes and point-blank fire. But the cost came swift. A Warhound was crushed beneath enemy retaliation, her noble heart extinguished beneath flaming steel. On the far flank, two other Warhounds ran headlong toward death. They faced two twisted reavers, each festooned with gore-stained banners and heretical adornments. Through grit and guile, they lured one reaver too far, and when its shields fell, it was hit with a volcano cannon blast that split the heavens. The reaver died screaming, its upper half vaporized in nuclear fire, but fate has no mercy. One of the Warhounds was caught in the counterattack, its cortex burned out, its princeps dying, screaming in the tank. Another tumbled into a crater, helpless. A single brutal volley finished them, and the warriors of Tempestus vanished into fire. Titans fell, knights died, and in the shadows of destruction, the Omnissiah's loyal few marched not for victory, but to ensure their deaths would mean something. This was the last ride of Tempestus. This was the final charge of the Knights of Tyrannus, and this was the end of the Forge of Zeth. Adept Coriel Zeth stared into the inferno and whispered farewell to a Pluvian Maximal, whose noble sacrifice had turned the Ulysses reactor chain into a graveyard of fire and glass. The Martian desert would glow for 10,000 years, but at least it would not belong to the Dark Mechanicum. In her heart, she knew the time had come. The Knights of Tyrannus, bloodied but unbowed, had carved a crimson road through Melgator's armies. Only 5 remained: Verticorda, Catarix, and 3 dying giants. And still they charged, and still they fought, and still they believed. But belief was not enough. Zeth turned from the spectacle of heroism and ruin. She descended into the heart of her forge, mechadendrites interfacing with silver pylons, her thoughts translating into newspheric commands. She would deny Kelbor Hal his prize. She would destroy the magma city herself. But fate had one last cruelty left. Remier, tech assassin of the Sidonian Sisterhood, glided into the chamber, golden pistols gleaming. "Stop your work," she said. "I won't," Zeth replied. 2 shots, 1 breath. The forge fell silent. Lord Commander Verticorda drove Ares Lictor forward through a hellscape of enemy fire and demonic visages. Around him the last knights fell, one lost to suicidal bombers, another a blazing martyr who carved a path with his death. Only Verticorda, Catarix, and 1 other remained. They saw him, Melgator, the architect of Mars's fall, coward, conspirator, traitor. Through a hurricane of fire, their mounts blazing, their bodies torn, the last knights of Tyrannus charged the Black Pavilion. Scutari and war machines shattered underfoot. Verticorda's cannon sang one last hymn, even as his own arm was torn from its socket. One of the trio died in a blast of grenades and flame. The Emperor's lightning banner fell, but his vengeance did not. Catarix and Verticorda fired. The Ambassador's voids flared, meant to stop assassins, not knights. In seconds, they were gone. Melgator's body evaporated in a single blast. A traitor, atomized by the justice of Mars. Then silence. Ares Lictor's knee exploded. The sacred one, the one the Emperor himself had touched. Verticorda fell. The cockpit glass shattered. His blood joined the molten steel of Mars. And as he died, he smiled because the spirit of his mount took him home. I cast the lightning of Tyrannus at thee. This was the last ride. The final vengeance, the end of the old Mechanicum, and in the fires of their death, they were immortal. Princeps Cavalerio, encased in the womb of Deus Tempestus, bled into his amniotic tank. His pain was a symphony of failing reactor coils and shattered shields, mirrored in his own bleeding flesh. Yet still, he fought. Still, he led. 3 warlords of Legio Mortis danced upon him like iron gods. Cavalerio met them with fire and fury. Missiles howled, turbo lasers shrieked, and his volcano cannon spoke the language of annihilation. With each strike, he outmaneuvered his enemies, bonded body and mind to the god machine beneath him. One warlord fell, then another. Their reactors cooked off in nuclear blossoms, reduced to twisted wreckage under the might of the Stormlord. For a moment, it seemed the tide could turn, but then Aquila Ignis opened fire. One Titan was obliterated. The might of the Imperator-class Titan tore through shields and armor like parchment. Cavalerio felt the death of his brothers. Princeps Suzak, the hero of 100 battles, then Raptoria, and then another. One by one, the Titans of Tempestus were sundered, their names destined to echo in legend. Aquila Ignis moved to capture Deus Tempestus. Scutari swarmed like metal termites, breaching and burning. Cavalerio, half dead, blood flooding his vision, gave his final command. Disengage all reactor safeties. It is done, said the engine seer. May the Omnissiah forgive us. And then Deus Tempestus died in a second sun. But the city had one last voice left to scream. Adept Coriel Zeph, bleeding from the chest, crippled by the assassin's bullet, stood victorious. She had fed a Nuspheric trip code into her killer's augmetics, frying her systems and handing her over to her servitor Pol, once her own student, whose brain was fried by Remier, now her final vengeance. With agony in her limbs and death blooming in her chest, Zeth enacted her ultimate plan. The sluice gates of Eregia Mons were opened. Lava flowed in torrents down ancient aqueducts. The void columns that held the magma city above the Martian bedrock were exposed and unprotected. The earth cracked and the city screamed. Lava geysers burst through temples and manufactorums. The Typhon Causeway split in half, toppling war machines and warriors alike into a boiling sea. The Vulcan Gate, which had stood for a millennium, shattered like porcelain. Legio Mortis, victorious only moments before, was now engulfed in fire. Aquila Ignis, massive and near invincible, turned to flee, but even titanic strength could not outrun the wrath of Mars. Lava reached its ankles, its legs buckled, and the Imperator fell, crashing to the scorched earth in ruin. The magma city was consumed. In one final volcanic purge, all of Zeth's work, her dreams of a golden age of science, were turned to ash. What the traitors had claimed in blood, the world reclaimed in fire. 3 hours later, the city was gone, swallowed whole by Mars itself, and with it, the last hope of a Mechanicum untainted. All that remained was war. Far below the Martian plain, the last 2 knights of Tyrannus made a cautious descent into the rocky depths of the Medusa Phasae, a trench system that straddled the border between the highlands and lowlands of Tharsis and Elysium. Both machines clambered down into the darkness, while Mars above burned with war. They were each scarred with battle, yet both moved with smooth, natural grace, as though fresh from a maintenance refit. Equitos Bellum led the way, with Pax Mortis guarding their rear, as they sought an automated research facility facility of Coriol Zeth that Mu 31 had assured them they would find hidden in this deep canyon. Here, the knights and their 2 passengers would follow the instructions of the girl with the golden light and await the end of hostilities to see what was left of their beloved world. Deep in the Noctis Labyrinthus, Dahlia Cythera and Mu 31 took up their stewardship of the dragon. A measure of the golden light that shone within Dahlia had now passed to her protector, and they were content in the knowledge that their friends were as far from the fighting as it was possible to be. Only much later, when Dahlia dared return to the Silver Cavern, did she see that the book containing the grand lie of Mars had been taken. 10,000 years would pass before the next guardian was drawn to the Noctis Labyrinthus, but by then the damage had been done. Thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. You are amazing for that. This is the longest video I've ever done by far. So if you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing, as it really does help the channel out. Let me know what you think and if you like this more in-depth style. But yeah, again, thank you so much. See you next time. Goblin out.